Happy Monday, Misketeers. Welcome back to Missing Out Mondays, where we tell you what we're into. Start your week off right. I'm Tauri Jay.
I'm Lex Michael.
Lex Michael, what are you into this week?
So this week I finished Death Stranding on the PlayStation 4, the new game by Hideo Kojima, his first after he split with Konami, the company with which he made the very famous and beloved series of Metal Gear Solid games, which I'm a big fan of. This is his first solo venture, Kojima Productions, separate from Konami, and it's a game where if you've heard about it, you've probably heard a lot of people comparing it to a walking simulator, which is on the one hand not wholly inaccurate, and on the other hand, I think wildly reductive. There was a lot of walking in this game. Your main character, Sam, played by Norman Reedus, is a delivery person. The idea being this is a post-apocalyptic future where a cataclysmic world event has made the sort of boundaries between this plane of existence and the plane of existence of, call it the afterlife of the dead. The walls have started to break down. America has fallen, and the idea is we're going to try and put some version of America back together. And the way we're going to do that is this delivery man is going to make deliveries, thereby connecting people and essentially building a bridge from one coast to the other so that we can hopefully rebuild this country. So I had a lot of fun playing this game. Now, a lot of people found the mechanics to be very tedious because as you're walking, you're carrying a bunch of equipment on your back, and you're walking over unsteady terrain and things, and so it's about constantly having to manage your inventory, balance everything out that you're carrying, and then also you will occasionally have to press the left trigger or the right trigger to balance yourself out so that you don't tip over and damage your cargo and stuff. A lot of people found that crazy tedious. I found myself just holding both triggers at the same time to balance myself, and I didn't really have that problem. But the environments are gorgeous. A lot of it's very relaxing. Like, I ended up, for a lot of the long treks across the map, put one earbud in my ear and listen to podcasts, but occasionally he'll put... Kojima's a big fan of Low Roar, the band, the artist Low Roar.
Okay.
Ton of Low Roar music that will come up on the soundtrack as you walk through big open spaces. Really relaxing, as it turns out. I feel like now that I've completed the story, I'm going to go back in and do a lot of the ancillary deliveries because of how almost meditative I find it.
Okay.
The gameplay does get a lot more varied the further into the game you get. It's really quote unquote just walking for the first little bit of the game. Then you start like other video games, it becomes a lot more actiony. You have to fight bosses, you have some weaponry, but because it's Kojima and the sense of humor is what it is, your weaponry is almost all bodily fluid based. So because your main character has a condition called dooms, essentially he is less vulnerable to the BTs, the beached things, which are these floating spectral, like dead ghost demon monster things.
Okay.
He is not quite as susceptible to them as others, and because he's got this condition, his bodily fluids might actually be damaging to them. So when you go to your private room, you can take a shower, you can go to the bathroom, and all of your runoff is used to make ammunition and grenades. So there's one of your first weapons, and your primary weapons is called they're hematic grenades, and they're basically explosives that are full of your blood.
Okay.
And that's how you defeat these BTs. Then you can get assault rifles later in the game, and like the ammunition is essentially made of your blood and your waste, and that's how you hurt them.
Is that a big Kojima thing? Like,
Kojima's,
is he a big bodily fluid guy?
In hindsight, Kojima's actually really into poop and pee humor, which is interesting considering how massively heady and intricate and smart his storytelling and his mythology is. Also really into poop and pee humor.
All right. Fair enough.
Yes. So then you've also got, they're called mules that were delivery people, but became so addicted to carrying and delivering cargo that they basically roam the countryside in gangs trying to steal. They don't want to kill you, but they do want to beat you up and take all your stuff. But you can't kill them, because if you kill them, if you create a dead body, it might create, basically they like explode because of whatever the Death Stranding. Once that happens to the world, one of the things that happens is a body, when it dies, will undergo necrosis, and it's bad business. The body essentially becomes a bomb. So you don't want to kill them, so then you have to have ammo that's like, non-lethal, or you got to tie them up, something like that.
Why don't they carry rocks?
It's a good question. You can, though. You can take a cargo container.
You can convince them. You can be like, hey, here's a rock. And they go, shit, why didn't I think of this?
You can, though, pick up a cargo container with your hand and slam it into somebody's head. That's pretty fun. But it's a lot more varied gameplay-wise than a lot of the memes, though some of the memes are pretty funny. A lot of the memes would have you believe, but also the story, even though like most Kojima games, most of the big story information is heavily backloaded. Like, very famously, he ended Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots with a feature-length cutscene. Most of the last 2 hours of Death Stranding are barely interactive cutscenes, and that's where everything gets rounded out. And the story I ultimately found to be very satisfying, very moving. It is easily one of the best looking games I have ever seen. Some of the mocap on these actors is so good. I am not exaggerating. There were moments where I forgot for a second that I was watching a video game, and it looked like I was watching two actors play a scene.
Oh, nice.
And the cast in this thing is pretty wild as well. You've got Norman Reedus as your lead, but you've also got Mads Mikkelsen, you've got Lea Seydoux, you've got Margaret Qualley, you've got the faces of Guillermo del Toro and Nicholas Winding Refn, who lent their likenesses but didn't do their own. They didn't do their voice work. But it's something. The word masterpiece gets thrown around so much lately that it just doesn't carry the weight that it once did, in my opinion.
Okay.
But I get, on the one hand, how this game would definitely not be for everybody for a number of reasons, but I also absolutely get the sentiment that leads people to refer to Death Stranding as a masterpiece. I think it's excellent. It's one of those games. I'm not a huge gamer. I play the big AAA titles that come out for whatever system I have for the most part, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not really a big play the game to 100% completion guy. I did that for the PS4 Spider-Man game because it just was so fun to swing around and stuff. But I'm not the guy who plays the Arkham games and has to get all the Riddler trophies for whatever reason.
Right.
This is a game where I genuinely see myself very possibly going back in and doing all of the ancillary deliveries, even post-story, because I find something almost meditative about the process of making these deliveries from place to place across these really pretty maps. And also, I think the mythology is really cool. I think all of the ideas, the really big ideas about life and death and the barriers that separate one from the other, I think are really, really interesting. I really was emotionally torn apart by the end of this story, and I was not prepared for that. You get that occasionally with games, but rarely, or I get it very rarely. And I got so much mileage out of this thing, and it makes me even more excited now to see what Kojima is going to continue to do on his own, because this is more than a little impressive.
Okay.
So if you've got a console for it, I highly recommend you check out Death Stranding. Not going to be for everybody, but if you see a way in for yourself and you want to stick with it past the first couple hours where it really is very, very, very walking heavy, I would highly recommend you check it out. The one other thing about the game that I think is really cool and sort of unique is that it's a single player experience, but you are connected to an online experience insofar as everybody that's playing Death Stranding that has a connection you can't interact with the other players, but you can build a structure, you can build a bridge over a body of water that will then be there, and other players can come along and use that structure you build, and vice versa.
Oh, cool.
Which I think is really interesting, and it leads to a very different kind of collaboration, maybe a bit more impersonal kind of collaboration, but a really interesting kind that I don't think I've seen before.
Does that mean that you run into other Norman Reeduses? You'll be like, oh, look, it's Norman Reedus. And he's like, oh, no, I'm Norman Reedus.
You don't, but if you hit in most of the environments, if you hit the touchpad, the sort of on the PlayStation controller, that little rectangle in the middle, your guy, Norman Reedus, will be like, we'll say random phrases, but he'll be like, I'm Sam. And then you'll hear from somewhere off in the distance a voice responding, my name's Sam too.
Ah, that's cute.
Yeah, so it's it creates the illusion, the idea that you are inhabiting the space with other yous potentially, but you don't actually see them. You just see the structures that they leave behind.
Got it. Okay. So that's Death Stranding, right?
Yes.
Nice.
I dig it a bunch.
So Lex Michael, I'm catching up on Silicon Valley.
Oh, how is it now?
I missed the 5th season, so I'm catching up on the 5th season. We are in the midst of the 6th season, which I think we're getting close to the end of the show.
This is their final season.
I believe
if
so.
I recall correctly, because apparently Kumail Nanjiani is very noticeably jacked because he's putting on those Marvel muscles.
Ooh, yes. So, yes, in anticipation of the end of the series, I decided to catch up on the season 5 and start watching season 6. Season 5 is marvelous. It's just as good as the whole show. Everything. If you guys haven't seen any Silicon Valley, it's featured on HBO, and it is about a group of tech dudes trying to make their idea and all the trials and tribulations they go through. And the main character is both neurotic and slightly megalomaniac. What is the term?
Megalomaniacal?
Yes, that one.
Which sounds, I believe that's correct, and it sounds like it cannot possibly be correct. It sounds like gobbledygook. Are you talking about the lead? So you're talking about the Thomas Middleditch character?
Yes.
Okay.
Richard.
I watched season 1 of Silicon Valley, and I liked it a bunch, but I have not. So I'm struggling to pull from memory.
I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking to everyone as if they've never seen it before. And so we have a Google surrogate, which he contends with, and named Hooli, and it takes a lot of the like tech industry like stereotypes and really plays those to their most extreme. And it also really finds ways to put the characters in really insane scenarios, which I think is part of the big appeal of the show, is just seeing this group of characters who are really like they're so defined and so realistic, and putting them in these insane scenarios and seeing how they deal with them. I think it's such a well-crafted show, especially the trajectories of the seasons. Like the B story will always just kind of be happening in the periphery, and it will always find a way to be so instrumental in the season's I guess penultimate episode. So guys, I highly recommend it. If you have a chance, catch up. There are only 10 episodes a season, and we're in the 6th season, so that's only 60 hours of your life, which is like a typical workday if you're like a doctor or something. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, what are you doing really that's more important than watching TV?
Exactly. But yeah, check it out. It's on HBO. If you have Hulu and you have the HBO addition, it's not too much more. Or if you're, I don't know, if you just get HBO Now because you're like, cable, who has that? Get HBO Now, and then you can watch it on there.
Or it's gonna HBO Max pretty soon, right?
Who cares about HBO Max?
I mean, if that's how you want to watch Silicon Valley, presumably you will.
No, because it's just gonna be. I'm gonna watch it on my HBO add-on to Hulu.
Oh, that will still be a thing, probably.
Yes. Unless I just get a free HBO Max subscription with my HBO subscription, then fine, whatever. But forget HBO Max.
Well,
anyways.
There goes our potential sponsorship by HBO Max.
Present me with a good deal and great content, and I will support your platform.
Tauri picks up the phone. It's like, listen, HBO Max, I want you to do me a favor. And then Tari's tweeting, there was no quid pro quo. And I was like, but I was on the call too. Yes, there was.
You know what, Lex Michael? I love your ass.
What?
Not your butt, but like anyway. All right. We were all making references, and I also made a reference.
And I'm scared.
Okay. It seems that I'm not allowed to make
I'm inclined to cancel you
references anymore, so I'm just going to wrap this show up. What are you guys into? What's everyone into out there? Let us know by hitting us up on Twitter, which is Missing Outcast, MissingOutcast. But you can also hit us up on our personal social media. Lex Michael, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter and Instagram at the Lex Michael.
And you can find me at Tauri Jay, Taurijay. And make sure to join us tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the third season of Radio Lab's side podcast, More Perfect, in which they created the most perfect album. They go amendment by amendment through all 1 through 27th amendments and talk about where they came from. They give you fun anecdotal stories involving the amendments, and also they created an album working with numerous different musical artists that were inspired by the amendments, and they created custom songs specifically for this album, and the genres and the musical stylings vary so far that I think that it'll introduce you to new artists that you've never even heard of that you're gonna love.
Yeah.
So make sure to join us tomorrow when we talk about that. Until then, take care.
Take a Monday with yourself.
Oh.
Take a sweet break off a piece of that Monday.
Ooh, yep, that's our new
Break off a
catchphrase. Break off a piece of that Monday.
Who owns Kit Kat, Nestle? They'll be like, hey.
Yep.
And there goes our Nestle sponsorship.